Honestly, I've exceeded my my personal financials. So now it's helping people around me, and it's helping risk takers. It's entrepreneurs. We're not making enough of them, and we need everyone we can get. Go take the risk, especially when you're young, when you got nothing to lose. And when you do take the risk, how do you mitigate it down the road is where we come in.
Welcome to the Build to Millions podcast, where we guide successful entrepreneurs and investors on their journey from millions to billions. We believe the key to scaling your wealth and compounding your impact is by learning from some of the most successful entrepreneurs, investors, and billionaires in the world, and practicing a stewardship over ownership mindset, as well as applying billionaire biblical principles. And our ultimate goal is to help you scale and compound your wealth in life so you can give more, all of it away. I'm your host today, Brett Swarts. In every episode, we feature some of the world's best entrepreneurs, millionaires, and billionaires, where they share their values, wisdom, and secrets with us so we can compound our wealth and life so we can give more, all of it away to help MVPs. I'm your host today, Brett Swarts, and I'm so excited for the guest that we have. He's out of the great state of Idaho, and he has a micro-captive strategy to help defer taxes, mitigate risk, and do it strategically. He specializes in something called an 831B. So much here to talk about. I'm excited to dive in with a fellow tax patriot fighter. Please welcome to the show with me, Carlson. Van, how are we doing?
Great, Brett. Thanks for having me on your show. Look forward to our conversation.
Absolutely. And for our listeners getting to know you for the first time, would you give us just a little bit more about your story and your current focus?
Yeah, you bet. Been in risk management, working with business owners, the exciting stuff when it comes to running a business. But I've been doing it for successfully almost 30 years now. It's kind of found my way into it, and I gravitated to it. Mostly for risk takers, the entrepreneurs, right? The ones that are willing to take an idea and run with it and turn it into a profitable company. It's not easy to do. And when it does happen, you need to maximize it. So I really appreciate being on your platform. And your listeners are our clients, honestly. So it's good to be here. But it's really risk management. It's utilizing strategies that, again, kind of how your intro brought it. These are tools that have been used for a long, long time. And we're trying to bring it out to, I'll call it the mom and pops, but, mom and pops are very successful businesses. And just like they all have tax issues and tax strategies they need to deploy because the Fortune 500 companies are, and two, their competitors are. And so that's kind of that's where we're at today.
Awesome, Van. That's fantastic. And, before we dive into the 831B plan, I want to take one other step back. I believe we'll all be given certain gifts. These gifts have been given us to be a blessing and help to others. Some people call them strengths. Some people call them superpowers. What would you say, Van just always kind of had a gift of growing up, and what is that gift and our strength, and how does it help how you help and bless people today?
I would say the will. I will it. I vision first and then make it happen. And it's I don't know where it came from, honestly, but it just was ingrained in me. And once I vision it, I can make it happen. That's my strength.
Awesome. I love that. That's so key. So the will to make it happen after vision. Okay, perfect. So now let's dive into the topic at hand, which is, these micro captive, tax plans, right? Break down what the number one secret is to these and how these things work.
Yeah. It's risk management first and foremost, right? So, any business today, and obviously we can point to COVID. I think it's one of the things that's been able to exponentially grow our company the last couple of years is, this idea that, hey, my insurance isn't covering me for everything. I'm going to retain risk on my side of the books, and it comes down to risk financing. If I can't transfer that risk normally through normal channels, paying a premium, getting a policy, and transferring that risk for fire, theft, vandalism, let's say on a building. But then I'm also going to retain risk that says, when the government says, hey, you can't evict people because they can't afford to pay their rent right now. Meanwhile, you still got mortgage payments. You still got all the things you're dealing with, right? So those are retained risk. And then it just comes down to risk financing. Do you want to use after-tax money or pre-tax money? If you want to use after-tax money, you're just using capitalization. That's why PPP, ERC, and all these other programs the government came out with, because your bills were going to keep coming. You're going to erode your capital, and you got through the backside of the other. Now you can't afford to open up your business because you don't have no more capital left, right? what we do is use pre-taxes. And if you want to use a pre-tax, you got to use an 831B tax code. That's essentially it. And so we don't try to make it sound like a rocket ship here too much, Brett, but understand it's tied to risk management. It's utilizing tax-deferred dollars through risk financing for the purpose of risk financing. And that's really where, a lot of business owners out there today, they know that they've taken a lot more risk on all the time. And when you look at traditional insurance, especially states like Florida, you're finding yourself taking on more first dollar risk all the time. That's totally unfunded. When it happens, you're just going to pull it out of your operating capital. And what we do is we go to business owners and say, listen, isn't it more efficient, smarter to take a portion of the tax bill you're paying and set it aside on a deferment? So now you're selling your own ship. You're not dependent on the government. Next time PPP happens or anything like, or COVID type things happen. Those are the big game changers we're bringing out to business owners, and our price points have really come into the play where small businesses could be doing what we're doing. Big businesses have been doing it for decades. I mean, this code came out in 1986 Tax Reform Act, and a lot of people don't know about it. It's almost 40 years on the books. So the premium you're putting in so just to give you quick highlights, you're going to take a deduction out of the 162 line item of your operating company, necessary and ordinary business expense. So you're deducting the premiums you're going to put away from your operating company, and now we're going to dump it into a micro captive, an insurance company. It has to feel like an insurance company. And as long as you follow the rules, you can defer the premiums inside that C corp, so it doesn't pick it up as corporate taxable income, right? The only thing it's going to pay taxes on is realized investment gains. Now, what we do as a company, we're the administrator. So think of us as a 401k administrator, right? We're going to make sure the dollars stay tax deferred. There's rules and regulations to all this stuff, right? Anytime you want to take advantage of a tax code, you better have a third-party administrator. And we're that third-party administrator specifically for 831B. And as you know, only 831B, that's just where you find in the tax revenue code, right? No different than the 401k, right? So 1031, all those things, it's just part of the tax code. That's what an 831B is. When it came out in 1986, though, it was really for crop insurance. Privately held companies were getting it, very similar to the market we're in today when it talks about traditional insurance. Harder to find markets. Exclusions were coming in. If you look at a policy from 5 years ago, even just last 5 years, today, you are paying more for coverage and getting less coverage. Business owners are finding themselves self-insuring more risk more and more. And we can dive into the specific risk we're talking about.
Let's pause real fast. Let me capture a little bit of this and try to break it down. So, and maybe a case study would be really, really helpful. But it really sounds like, being very tax efficient and to take financing with risk and trying to make a C corp here that you can offset you can deduct the premium, right, and then to this C corp insurance company, right, that now you own, and that can offset your other risk if something else happens. Is that a good summary, Van?
Absolutely. That's it. Yeah.
So let's do a case study, right? So give me like a Mr. Business owner lives in California, either owns a multifamily property or owns a roofing company, right? And he's got, let's say, $2 or $3 million of revenue. Yep. And he has this general insurance policy, maybe an umbrella as well. And then you come in and say, hey, look, you're paying X amount of dollars to these insurance companies currently, right? Is that what you're saying? Let's just say his insurance is $150,000 a year, right? Mm-hmm. What would be the model here? Or maybe you can break that down for us.
No, that's great. So a couple things on that, right? So if I got a company paying $400,000 or more traditional insurance, we can look to try to replace their traditional insurance as well. That's a whole nother avenue of our company. We specialize in that. It's a company called Insure Edge. I've got some of the best, we call those macro captives. This is when we're replacing traditional insurance. Okay. Micro captives are risks that you can't transfer, meaning that I can't buy a policy for, there's not an insurance company out there offering me this coverage. Okay. So I'm just retaining it on my books. Now, how do you want to retain it? Again, like I said earlier, do you want to use pre-tax or after-tax? We're here to show you how to use pre-tax.
Right. Let's do that.
Right. So the pre-tax. So a good example is a roofer for you brought up, right? Mm-hmm. So the roofer is going to have a lot of warranties out there. I mean, that's basically how they sell the differentiator, because we have a lot of roofers that are clients of ours. Mm-hmm. We know their labor warranty is excluded from their product warranty. So in order to differentiate themselves a lot of times and be competitive, they're going to give the labor warranty away. Meaning that, hey, if something happens in the next 30, 20 years, we'll come and replace that roof, not only from the material, but also from the labor standpoint. Well, the labor's on them. So now we can start to allocate dollars for every profitable job, for every job they have, and set that aside. Now they can defer those profits, meaning taxable, right? Now they can build a way for that because they have a book liability on their books, meaning that they're going to have to provide labor down the road, potentially for free. Well, how do you want to finance that risk? So a good example is when I got into this in 2008, after running a successful property and casualty agency for, I don't know, almost 20 years, there was I cut my teeth with the auto dealers. If you ever wondered why the finance and insurance guy that you go into the back room and sign the paperwork with is always trying to purchase a service contract with you or preventive maintenance and all that stuff, all these auto dealers own their own 831B plans. They're actually retaining that risk for your service contract on your vehicles, but they're piling up many, many dollars in there. And I can tell you in 2008 and 2009 when I got involved in this, this idea came to me about 2006, 2007. I wasn't that interested in it, honestly, as a property and casualty agent. What got me interested was when the Great Recession hit. And I watched a business owner that had several of these in place leading up to those good times. He took advantage of those bad times. And I thought that's what smart money does. You don't go into the market when the market's all-time high, right? That's when the light bulb went on for me. And that's why I became more, I literally sold my agency and went into this full time starting in 2008, where business owners, there's a smarter, better way of doing business. And this is one of those many tools that are out there, but this business owners don't know about it. And so the roofing guys, they have a ton of unfunded liabilities when it comes to their warranties. And then you can start talking about their first dollar risk, meaning that do they have a liability claim? If something happens, are they out the first $25,000, $50,000 in coverages before their traditional policy even kicks in? That's a very large unfunded liability on their books. The other businesses we get into a lot is this really similar to PPP. I mean, the reason why PPP had to come out was insurance was never going to cover that. Why? Because it was an indirect loss. If you were no longer an essential business and they said, hey, you got to shut down, traditional insurance wasn't going to cover that business interruption. You know, if all of a sudden you didn't have a lot of customers come to your business, even though you could technically stay open, the revenues were going down dramatically, right? So that's very similar to what we do, right? We take the severity losses and we start building away reserves and surpluses away inside your own, and now you have an own insurance company that's handling these risks on a tax-deferred basis. And we talk to the business owners, like, what's keeping you up at night? What have you had experienced in the last so many years of being in business where you thought you were covered for something and it turns out you weren't? I can tell you when I was in traditional insurance, I bet you 50% of the time I told business owners it's not going to be covered. You know, and so you never know how good your insurance is until you need it. And like I said, if you've been in business long enough, a good example is dispute resolution today. General liability policies have a traditional endorsement on their policies that says a right to defend, which means if you get sued by anybody, customers, employees, all that kind of stuff, this thing's going to at least cover your legal bills. If you found, at fault, it may not cover the damages, but it covers the legal bills. What I've seen in the last 10 years in this business, where I've seen more and more insurance carriers getting off of that right to defend clause to the point where a lot of business owners find themselves paying their own legal bills. And we all know that's where the expenses in any defending of your business is illegal, not necessarily the settlement or lawsuits and all that stuff. It's paying the attorneys. So we have a dispute resolution policy. Again, you build up this, we call it a rainy day fund or war chest, depending on what's going on in your business at the time. It could be a rainy day fund or it could be a war chest. And in today's, when I look at 1986 to now, think about how much more complicated the world is to run a business today, almost 40 years later. Who would have cared about brand damage or cyber and all the other things?
Let me jump in. And by the way, this is awesome stuff. If you want to learn more, you go to 831b.com. It's 831b as in boy.com to connect with Van and his team. I love your passion and your focus on this and going all in when you went all in. And really taking a fight for the business owner who, is being, bombarded with, insurance that, is just, it's really difficult these days. It's gone up, obviously, the premiums, all the different things. So we've established the problem, but I really want to break it down really simple, right? So back to the roofing example, right? So I'm a roofer. I got about $2 to $3 million of revenue, right? I'm paying, X amount of insurance. And so, let's just say I am also paying a lot of tax. I live in California. I live in New Jersey, New York. And I'm like, you know what? I'd like to create my own micro insurance C Corp company. And I'd like to put $100,000 to $300,000 a year into it. And I'm going to defer that income tax, right? On the 100 to 300 is my understanding of that, right?
Yep.
And I'm also going to use financing to leverage that into the insurance company, right? And then fast forward a year or two or three or whatever, I've got a big insurance thing that's not covered, or it's only covered by 50%. Let's say it's a $2 million insurance claim or something crazy, right? Mm-hmm. Are we saying that basically anything that's in excess of what the traditional insurance isn't covered, the micro insurance company then covers? Is that a fair summary?
Kind of. There's going to be policies. So there's going to be policies written every year, 12-month policies, all those types of things. And what that does for you is, we're going to sit down and look at the coverages. So to your point, it's covering the gaps where gaps need to be filled in. We're doing a full-on risk assessment of the business owner to be able to say, hey, here's what we see in your gaps. This is what you think your first dollar risk is. We're going to have to start the fund for that. Now, what we typically do is 10% of your gross revenue in any given year, no more than 2% per policy. So what we have to look, so for example, let's say it's a $2 million company. You could put up to $200,000 away inside your insurance company.
Okay, pause. And that's $200,000 I'm not paying tax on.
You're expensing it actually out of your operating company.
Yeah, you're expensing it, right? So that's awesome. And so my revenue, instead of being $2 million, or now it's 1.8, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's all your expenses, right? So basically, it's taken off your top line, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
And that goes into there, and then that gives me how much insurance, coverage?
Typically, it's 2-to-1 coverages, so it's 4 to so for example, and here's the other thing too, Brett, and not to get too much down the rabbit holes. There's a 4-part test of this. The biggest thing is you need to be able to expense it. We need to be able to expense it at the operating company level, and at the same time, some of those dollars are going to be pooled together. So that's really where there's a distribution of risk. Like, for example, if your listeners goes and Googles this, right, they're going to see there's been abuse on the IRS. Basically, the IRS has perceived these as abusive schemes but it's really due to estate tax planning more than it is for risk management strategy. But most of my competitors are out offering this are attorneys. And so that becomes problematic, right? But at the same time, though...
Pause a second, Ben. I'm hearing background noise. I don't know what that is.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure it out myself.
Is it on the computer or on the phone? Or?
Yeah, I don't... give me 1 second here. Do you mind if we pause?
I have to be... We only have about 8 minutes left, so okay. I just don't want us to... I want to kind of wrap it up here.
I know. Give me 1 second. I apologize. Turn this thing off if he's getting a background noise. Sorry about that.
Oh, no problem, man. That's all good. So we're just talking about this. So for every $400,000, you're going to get every $200,000, you'll get about $400,000 of coverage on average, right? And this becomes a way to pay for lawsuits, a way to pay for insurance settlements, and ways to pay for something, warranties that, people are calling on for employment, warranties, right?
Yeah.
Stuff that otherwise would come out of your pocket is now being funded by this separate mini insurance company. That's your insurance company that you fund it with pre-tax dollars, tax deferred, right? So that's the concept here. Is that what you're saying, Van?
Yeah, absolutely. And those dollars are being invested, right? I mean, it's like a 401k at that point, right?
Yep. And so, it's a rainy day fund that's pre-tax dollars, and that you can use financing to leverage as well, right? Is that what you're saying?
Yep.
Okay, cool. That makes sense. It's very practical. I mean,
I agree.
Yeah, it's very practical, right? So,
risk is not a problem when it comes to running a business at all, right?
Yeah,
you're financing yourself.
What businesses does this apply to besides roofing companies and asphalt companies?
A lot of contractors, a lot of general contractors, real estate developers, medical, a lot of medical folks. There is no industry. One of the fun things we get to deal with here at our SRA is dealing with business owners that even have a unique kind of business. We deal with a lot of that because here's the problem with insurance. Insurance is a one-glove-fits-all mentality. The more unique your business is, probably the more gaps of coverages you have. Because
that's a good point.
They're just trying to fit you into a box, right?
That's a really good point. So, like, if you're like a service-based business that's really niche, that doesn't really fit into the mold, this is a great one to maybe consider. Is that what you're saying?
Oh, absolutely. Consulting today, they write one professional liability policy. Well, there's going to be a lot of consulting things in there you're going to find yourself excluded on, unbeknownst to you, till you go ask the agent, hey, I got somebody coming after me. I need to turn this in. They're like, oh, there's no coverage for that. Those are the things that happen. And those are scary times, honestly.
Yeah.
I mean, I've gone through it with plenty of clients over the years. And, if had they just known about these little tools, here's the other thing too, I'd say, Brett, if you're having a good year financially, taking a little bit off the top and just parking it off the side, not only is it good risk management, it's just good business. The problem is most business owners know about accelerated depreciation. So what they kept, and one of the things that drove me nuts in 08, 09, leading up to that, I was insuring business owners, contractors, subcontractors, developers. I mean, in Idaho, we were booming. I mean, it was crazy, and it still is actually, but all they did was like, hey, I left a fourth quarter's insurance agent. Hey, Van, my CPA says I owe $80,000. What's 2 more trucks and a skid steer going to cost me to insure this year? Well, all they did was leverage, right? They took the acceleration. So all they did was bet next year was going to be better than this year.
Right.
And that's a form of insanity. And so that's really where I came out and said, hey, there's got to be a smarter and better way to run a business. And this is just one aspect of it. And this is a tool in the toolbox. It's all it is. It's
a great tool. I like it. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like get with your CPA, get with Van, look through this, consider it. I haven't done it yet. I've been hearing about it, but Van's been doing it a long time. It's worth sitting down with him and his team and looking at this to see if it can be a good fit for you. Van, we are running out of time. I want to move to the lightning round. Are you ready?
Yes.
All right. Knowing what you know now, if you could go back to your 20-year-old self with the one gold nugget, make sure you tell yourself to do.
Never give up.
All right. Question number 2. What's the number one book you've recommended or gifted most of the past year?
There's Rocket. We went into EOS this past year, and Rocket Fire has been great for us.
Love it. Question number 3. Number one way you're using ChatGPT.
Say that one more time.
Number one way you're using like ChatGPT or like some kind of AI.
Yeah, absolutely. Help write policies for business owners.
Awesome. Next question. Favorite leadership quote or theme that you strive to live by?
Oh, man. You didn't tee me up on that one.
It could be a theme. It could be a theme. It could be a theme. Like, what's something like, a mantra or like something like, hey, this like this.
I can tell you what our 4 core values are.
Yeah.
We are innovative, fearless, we get it, and we do it right.
There it is.
And those are our 4 things that we live by as a company.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love it. Next question, man, I would say is, after all your success, helping all the people you've helped, what's the best way that you stay centered in your values and then also stay charged up to keep going for even more impact?
Honestly, I've exceeded my my personal financials. So now it's helping people around me, and it's helping risk takers. It's entrepreneurs. We're not making enough of them, and we need everyone we can get. And job. I always tell my people around me, job stands for just over broke. That's what JOB stands for. So, get a career, get a business, go take the risk, especially when you're young, when you got nothing to lose. And when you do take the risk, how do you mitigate it down the road is where we come in.
Oh, awesome. What a great way to end the show. Van, thank you for being on the show. Thank you for your passion. Thank you for your dedication to this niche. Again, everybody, 831b.com to get with Van Carlson, 831b.com. Van, thanks for being on the show. I also want to thank all of our listeners for listening to another episode of the Building to Billions podcast. We're also streaming on Capital Gains Tax Solutions podcast and YouTube channel. Hey, we're here to guide the successful entrepreneur and investor on your journey from millions to billions. And we believe the number one way to do that is by scaling your business. But more than that, by practicing a mindset and practice of stewardship over ownership every single day and applying billionaire biblical principles. We bring on guests like Van to share new, unique ideas that can help you mitigate your mitigate your risk, as well as continue to build your wealth to help more people make a bigger impact. Please go and check out Van's website as well. If you're looking to exit a highly appreciated asset, sell this business, real estate, Bitcoin, you have millions of capital gains taxes. You can check out our book called Building a Capital Gains Tax Exit Plan, which gives you the ability to defer that capital gains taxes and invest into new businesses and new real estate, all tax deferred. It's called Building a Capital Gains Tax Exit Plan. Go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com to learn more. Hey, appreciate everyone listening out there, and we'll talk to you again real soon. Bye now.